Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Binyamin ben Aaron, Moshe Aaron Becker, Leah Bas Yisrael Michael, Sarah Bas Avrom Harris, and Leah Bas Feivel. Wish everyone long life. Lovely to see you. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well and had a wonderful Shabbos. Good morning, Peter and Caroline. So I want to discuss with you today a couple of points relating to Reb Akiva. We're still discussing about the Omer, the period between Pesach and Shavuot, as well as discussing very briefly about Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. I know that we spoke about him in a sermon last week, but there was a beautiful anecdote that I want to start by sharing with you all. So that is the plan for today. Just important to point out that the times that on the advertisement are not accurate. So tomorrow it is 9. What time are we doing? Is it 9:15? I think it's 9:15 every day. 9:15 every day. Does that make sense? I think so. Or is it 9 o'clock? Sorry, 9 a.m. 9 a.m. every weekday, and then 9 a.m. every weekday, and then on Sunday 9:30. Okay, we'll get that poster changed. Okay, so let's start with the beautiful anecdote that I heard relating to Prince Philip, and I think the reason why I wanted to share it with you today is, besides the fact that it's a beautiful idea, I think it's very relevant to the Omer, and that is that we know that the Queen invited, I think it was at Balmoral, she invited Norman Tebbit and his wife Margaret to a lavish dinner, literally fit for kings and queens. Now, the Tebbits were rather hesitant about going, and in fact, Margaret didn't want to go at all. We have to bear in mind that this was in the aftermath of that horrendous, tragic bombing of the Brighton Hotel, where the Conservative Convention was happening, and she was one of the victims of that terrorist attack, and she found herself being confined to a wheelchair. It was very debilitating, and in addition to being in a wheelchair, Margaret Tebbit was not able, she didn't have the same movement over her, same control over her limbs, over her arms and her hands in particular, and therefore she didn't want to go to this dinner because she could not pick up and hold cutlery the way that a normal person would, and she was very embarrassed. And so they refused the invitation. Well, the royal family weren't having any of it. Her Majesty sent a message through somebody to call her up, and they were called up, and the Queen insisted, the Queen and Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, insisted that they attend. Margaret Tebbit was very reticent to go. After all, she knew she was in a wheelchair and she would stick out like a sore thumb. Anyways, as they came into the main banqueting hall, they were shown by an usher to their seats. And lo and behold, of all the seats that they were given, Margaret, in her wheelchair, was placed next to Prince Philip. Now, there could not be anything more embarrassing. She wanted the ground to swallow her up. After all, she wasn't going to be able to eat with cutlery. She didn't know how to manage things, and she was very, very embarrassed and shy. Anyways, immediately as she came to the table and Philip sat next to her and greeted her, Philip called over the waiter, and in a loud voice he said, I'm not using my cutlery tonight. And he had all his cutlery taken away, and then they served the first course, and Prince Philip insisted on eating the whole meal with his fingers because he wanted to put Margaret Tebbit at ease. I thought it was an extraordinary thing. We think it's the big things in life that make a difference, but really it's the little things which are signs of greatness. And I thought that anecdote and several others that have come out about the way that he put people at ease, I think spoke volumes about him and was really, really his lasting legacy. So let's move on to Reb Akiva, okay? So one of the things I want to share with you today is the idea that Reb Akiva, we know that he studied for 14 years in yeshiva. I think it was 14 years, yeah, over a decade in yeshiva, and he came back home from being a shepherd. Right, he left his wife and devoted himself, and she had made tremendous self-sacrifices. And he comes home, and he's come home with all his students, thousands of students, and then all of a sudden he opens the door, and before she even realizes that he's there, he hears his wife stating that I'm so happy with what my husband is doing. I wouldn't mind if he spent another 14 years in learning. And without missing a beat, Reb Akiva turned around with his students and went straight back to the yeshiva. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz asked a very obvious question on this. You know, it's strange, you know, the behavior and the character of Reb Akiva. You know, he'd been away from his wife for all these years. Okay, she was happy for him to go back and learn further and to become the great Reb Akiva that he became. But why not stop in, have a cup of tea, sit down, have an hour's conversation, catch up with all the news? Why wouldn't he do so? And Reb Chaim says that Reb Akiva was well aware that 14 and 14 don't make 28. In other words, if you have any type of break in what you are doing, in your routine, then it doesn't link up the two events. It doesn't become the same thing as if they had been done consistently, one after the other, right? You have to start again. If you imagine a car that's driving and the car has to stop at a traffic light and then it has to travel on, it takes time to build up speed, to build up momentum. It's not the same. You lose momentum, you lose something by having any type of interruption. And therefore, I think that's one of the key challenges in life. We find ourselves with so many challenges and difficulties and hurdles, is the question of whether we can keep that consistency in life. So whatever it is that we're going to do, we have to try to be consistent. Little things, little gestures, little actions, little deeds create greatness, but it's about trying to be consistent, trying to do it as best we can every single day to the best of our abilities. That's the second point. The third point that I want to make is about the Pasha this week, and that is relating to the Pasha discussed about the plague of that, discussed about the leprosy, tzorat, the plague of leprosy that would come on a person, on their home, on their possessions, if they spoke Lashon Hara, if they spoke badly about somebody they tailbeared, and anything else relating to those type of actions. And therefore, what is unbelievable is the word that is used is the word Nega, Nun, Gimel, Aleph. Okay, I would write it, I'll write it, but I think it's going to be backwards on your screen, but I will write it nonetheless. Okay, there it is. Okay, now if you take those same letters, so when you are looking at somebody badly, then you have this affliction on you of a nega, of leprosy. But the letter at the end of the word is the letter, so I don't know if you can see that, is the letter ayin. Ayin, right? What is the ayin in modern Hebrew? Ayin are the eyes. Okay, it's the eyes. If you put the ayin at the end, right? If you don't see properly, then you end up with a nega, you end up with leprosy. But if you move that ayin to the front, you're always looking to see, to see the good in everyone, right? You put your eyes first, you see the full picture, then what you get, let me write it out for you. You turn the word round and you get this. It's incredible. So I'm reading here. Neg. Whoops, sorry, I'm getting my pen's going the wrong way. Neg. Okay, Ayin, Nun, Gimel, the same letters backwards. Okay. In other words, you get Oneg, delight. When you put your eyes in the right place and you see things in the right way, the same situation can be seen rather than something of devastation and negative and darkness. It can be, if you put your eyes, the ayin at the front, then you put your eyes burst, you see what's really there, not what you think's there. You are able to push aside your biases, right? Your leniencies. Then all of a sudden you have delight in your life. So often, and we find that our vision is colored. We have distorted vision. We're not able to see things in the right light, in the right way. And if we are able to be able to be aware of the biases that we bring to the table, then we'll have a greater capability to ensure that we see things in the right way. It's life changing when we are able to see the positives. I know how positive each and every one of you are, to see the positives in life, to look at things, to look at that glass half full, and to be able to see the goodness in everyone and everything. You feel better, right? We know that when the Jewish people came to Moshe, what did they say? They didn't want to drink the water. The water, we're told, they complained that it was bitter water. The question was the water bitter, or had they tasted the water with a preconceived idea and embittered the water? Was their preconceived ideas and notions that changed the taste of the water? Very often that's the way it is in life, friends, that our preconceived ideas, the way that we turn up, determine the way that we are able to experience any type of interaction or any type of life occurrence. Let us hope and pray that we can all see things in the right way and thereby ensure that life is full with sweetness, goodness, and positivity. With this, we'll conclude with the memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmas Binyamin Ben Moshe Aaron Becca Leah Bas Yisrael Michael Sarah Bas Abram Harris Leah Bas Pai Moshe Chuli Lemon Baganede De Menucha Sam Rachev Racha Bin Yasvim Zaytikan Pav Lelamim Ve'Yitzov Sachet Neshos Amanai Nachla Sam Yanach B'Shlam Mishkavam Then Amar Amen. Lastly, Refu Shlema prayer. Misha Bacham Sein Romas of Yaakov Moshe and David Shlomo Yivarech Repes Achayim Ba'al Moshanim Mispalim Baburam Mitzvah Baruch Hu Yimali Rachem Aleichem Lach Malachosam Bishlach Nem Refu Shlenu Shmaim Lachol Rem Avzoch Shach Yisrael Refu Nefesh Refu Sakub Hashavas Makariv Ben Omar Amen. So we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and tomorrow night, the long-awaited, much anticipated Jimmy Gittins interview. He's an extraordinary man who went from rugby league, from one of the great players in rugby league, to suffering a debilitating injury, with almost a near fatal injury, double break in his neck. And now he's confined to a wheelchair. And you'll hear about how he has rehabilitated himself and become an extraordinary person. I'm honored with Gila to be interviewing him at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Please join us on Facebook and YouTube. All the very best.